All right, let's get back to work on supporting that thyroid gland. Yesterday we talked about nutrition, not only eating right, but making sure the machinery is in place, healing, sealing, nourishing, repairing, restoring that gut in order to derive and use those nutrients, the tyrosine, the iodine, the selenium, and the list goes on, in order to support that thyroid gland. Today let's talk about another player involved, very popular nowadays, in the gut health, immune health, and beyond, way beyond now, brain health, the whole thing, the microbiome. The microbiome. When you see commercials and you see people talking about probiotics nowadays, that's what they're talking about right there. The healthy intestinal ecosystem. Who's living down there? Who are the players down there? And we're not just talking about bacteria nowadays. More and more is being figured out. A whole multitude of players down there, including what we call the mycobiome, which we've touched on in the past. The mycobiome, MYCO, is actually the population of favorable yeast or fungus, the friendly fungus. We talk about friendly flora with the bacteria, friendly fungus that live down there as well, the mycobiome. But for today, when we're talking about the microbiome, we're talking about the good bacteria down there and optimizing that ecosystem. And that can be through healthy eating, healthy living, no doubt, as the way we live, our stress levels, again, our activity levels, all that stuff actually alters the balance of your intestinal flora, your microbiome, your probiotic population. All of that alters that, so it's all connected, like we said. That's not to overwhelm, but it's to give you so many different ways to tap into this thing and optimize it. Why is this pertinent to thyroid health? Well, when the thyroid gland releases hormone, it releases most of it as T4, which is the inactive form of thyroid hormone. The 4, meaning there's 4 iodine molecules on it, T4. In order for it to be the active form in your body, the metabolically active form, it needs to be T3. We need to take an iodine off. That's a conversion that needs to take place throughout the body. About estimates, 20 to 30% of this conversion takes place in the presence of a healthy balance of appropriate gut flora, gut bacteria. I don't want to say good or bad because they're not inherently good or bad, but just a balanced, optimal gut bacteria. If that is present, that T4 comes in there and it essentially perpetuates the conversion into active, usable T3. So once again, inroad right there in front of our face. If we optimize just our microbiome, a comprehensive probiotic protocol, or even just doing some probiotics for a while you calm down, stop bringing in all those toxic or microbiome disruptive factors as far as food goes. You give the gut a little break. You heal and seal the terrain in there where they live, which we talked about yesterday, because it works both ways. They feed towards the terrain in there, the microbiome that is, the friendly flora, and the terrain also enables them to live, take hold, and do what they got to do. So you want to make sure both are in place. The microbiome, friendly flora, good bacteria, like we just said, T4 to T3. So if you're experiencing some thyroid symptoms to some level, who wouldn't take another 20 to 30% upgrade, improvement in symptoms, if it's for the taking? You're just further moving that needle, further improving what you got going on. Interestingly enough, and I've articulated this because it's interesting with a few patients where it's been relevant. If you have a history of streptococcus infections throughout your life, this is an interesting one right here, and a lot of people do, especially as children. If you have that history, there might be somewhat of an imbalance of that bacteria within your gut. Now, there is normally some there, just like E. coli and other ones like that. But if there's too much, if it's more in favor of streptococcus, if there's too many of them at the party, what that can lead to, follow me now, is inhibition of a certain enzyme in your body called SHMT. You can look it up. This is a fascinating connection that I've shared with people, and they're like, wow, and it just fuels the fire to follow through on this potential strategy in order to glean some improvements. Streptococcus, overgrowth, imbalance in your intestine. Why do you think that? Could be because I get them all the time, or I had them when I was a kid, whatever it may be. If there's that dysbiotic, that imbalanced bacterial balance in there, and it's Streptococcus who is overexpressing, that inhibits that enzyme that we just said, the SHMT. That leads to a reduction of the amino acid we talked about yesterday. Amino acids, the building blocks for protein. That leads to a reduction of the amino acid tyrosine. Tyrosine is the precursor for thyroid hormone. No tyrosine, no thyroid hormone. So think about that. Another inroad. Another way to get inside there. Okay, yeah, okay, cool. Let's take some probiotics. Good strategy, no doubt. But why might this be pertinent to you? I do have that history of strep infections. That's something to think about. And that does then lower my level of tyrosine in my body, which is the precursor to thyroid hormone. Again, interestingly enough, tyrosine also the precursor to dopamine, the neurotransmitter in your brain. So now we're talking about motivation, focus, attention, pleasure, reward. Things that often get kind of blurred the line of, is it a mental manifestation of hypothyroidism? Either way, the microbiome, another key player. Get in on the gut, heal and seal the wall, but then reseed it appropriately. Balance it out, get rid of that dysbiosis, and once again, you're moving the needle in the right way of supporting that thyroid gland.